The audience buzzed with excitement as the cameras rolled on the Kelly Clarkson show. Kelly, radiant as ever in a bright floral dress, greeted her viewers with her signature warmth and easy charm. Today's guest was none other than country music powerhouse Jason Aldean, a man whose songs had filled stadiums and topped charts, but whose latest single had stirred controversy far beyond the world of music. The crowd erupted in cheers as Jason strode onto the stage, wearing his usual jeans, boots, and a dark denim jacket. His swagger was effortless, but there was a guarded edge to his smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jason Aldean," Kelly announced, clapping along with the audience as he took his seat beside her. "Good to be here, Kelly," Jason said, his southern accent rich and easy. "Good to have you here," Kelly replied warmly. "You've been busy lately, new album, new tour, new headlines. How's life treating you?" Jason chuckled lightly. "It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. I've been doing this for a long time, but this album, this one's close to my heart." The crowd cheered again, sensing the emotional weight in his voice. Kelly nodded, her expression soft. "You've said this album is your most personal yet. But let's talk about one track in particular, Heartland Truth. It's gotten people talking." Jason shifted in his seat. He knew what was coming. "Yeah," he said slowly, "I figured we'd get to that." Kelly kept her tone light but inquisitive. "Some critics are saying the song's political, that it touches on some pretty divisive themes. What do you say to those people?" Jason exhaled, his fingers tapping against his knee. "Look, I don't write to please critics. I write what I feel. That song isn't political, it's about home. About pride in where you come from, about small town life and the struggles that come with it. If people want to read something else into it, that's on them." Kelly nodded, trying to balance empathy with curiosity. "I totally understand writing from your heart," she said. "But when you have millions of listeners, don't you think there's a line between personal truth and something that can be misinterpreted? I mean, words can be powerful." The audience hummed with quiet tension. Jason's smile faded. "Kelly, I can't control how people interpret my music," he said firmly. "If someone gets offended, that's their problem. I'm not out here trying to start a debate. I'm just telling stories from my life." Kelly hesitated. "Of course, I think people know you're authentic. But with how charged things are in the world right now, do you ever think, maybe, some lyrics hit differently than you intended?" Jason's jaw tightened. "You know, that's what frustrates me. Folks are so ready to twist anything a country artist says into something political. I'm not out there making statements. I'm making songs." Kelly's voice softened, trying to ease the tension. "I hear you, Jason. I really do. I just think sometimes when art sparks conversation, that can be a good thing too." But Jason wasn't hearing it. His expression hardened. "Good for who? The bloggers? The people sitting online waiting to tear you apart? That's not a conversation, that's a witch hunt." The audience fell completely silent now. Kelly, ever the professional, tried to redirect. "Well, maybe it's a sign that people care about what you have to say. That your voice matters." Jason leaned forward, his tone sharpening. "Kelly, with all due respect, I didn't come here to talk about people being offended. I came here to talk about music. My fans know what I stand for. I don't owe explanations to anyone." Kelly's eyes widened slightly, but she kept her composure. "I understand that. I just think," Jason interrupted, his voice low but unmistakably irritated. "You think I should change how I write? Tone it down, make it more polite." "Not at all," Kelly said quickly. "I just think as artists, we—" Jason raised a hand, cutting her off. "Kelly, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've played for crowds bigger than this entire city. I don't need to justify my lyrics on a talk show." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Kelly glanced toward her producer, who was waving subtly from behind the cameras. She forced a nervous smile. "Okay," she said softly, "let's take a breath. I think everyone just wants to understand your perspective." Jason shook his head. "Nah, I think everyone just wants a headline." The words landed heavy. Kelly blinked, visibly thrown. Jason stood abruptly, unclipping his mic and setting it on the coffee table. "You know what, I think I'm done here." "Jason, wait," Kelly said, reaching out as he turned toward the exit. "We're just having a conversation." He stopped, looked back at her with a glare that was equal parts anger and disappointment. "Conversations go both ways, Kelly. This one feels more like an ambush." Then, without another word, he walked off stage. The audience gasped. Kelly sat frozen, her hand still slightly raised. The producers shouted for a commercial break, and the theme music played awkwardly as Jason disappeared behind the curtains. Kelly finally exhaled, forcing a shaky smile toward the audience. "Well," she said softly, "live TV, always full of surprises." The audience gave a hesitant laugh, but the unease in the room was undeniable. What was meant to be a simple chat about music had turned into one of the most intense moments daytime television had seen in years. The moment Jason Aldean stormed off the Kelly Clarkson show, the clip was destined to go viral. Before the day was over, it had been replayed, dissected, and shared millions of times across every corner of social media. Fans who hadn't even watched the show in months were suddenly talking about it. News outlets ran with sensational headlines: "Jason Aldean walks off Kelly Clarkson's show after on-air clash," and "Tense moment stuns viewers as Aldean exits interview." Kelly's production team worked overtime, carefully editing the footage for the episode's rebroadcast. They removed some of the more awkward pauses but left enough in to preserve the drama. Kelly, meanwhile, sat in her dressing room, scrolling through a flood of messages on her phone. Some were supportive: "You handled that so well, Kelly," while others accused her of pushing too hard. She sighed, setting her phone aside. She had been in tough interviews before, but this one stung. She genuinely liked Jason. She hadn't meant to provoke him, she just wanted to have an honest conversation. That evening, Jason Aldean took to social media. He posted a photo of himself backstage at a concert venue, guitar slung over his shoulder. The caption read, "I stand by my music and my words. I've always been real with my fans, and I always will be. No drama, just truth." Within minutes, the post had hundreds of thousands of likes. His fans rallied behind him, praising his authenticity and defending his walk-off as standing up for himself. But critics weren't as kind. Some called him unprofessional, accusing him of overreacting to simple questions. Comment sections turned into digital battlegrounds, with people passionately taking sides. Meanwhile, entertainment blogs and YouTube channels churned out commentary videos analyzing every frame of the encounter. "Look at Jason's expression right before he takes off the mic," one blogger said dramatically. "You can see the exact second he decides he's done." Another posted, "Kelly Clarkson tried to have a real conversation, and Jason couldn't handle it." The next morning, Kelly addressed the situation at the top of her show. Standing center stage, she smiled warmly, but her tone carried a quiet sincerity. "So, y'all, yesterday's show got a little intense," she said, drawing soft laughter from the audience. "I've got nothing but love for Jason Aldean. He's an incredible artist, and sometimes, passionate people just clash. That's life, right?" The crowd applauded, and Kelly nodded. "Look, my job is to ask questions. His job is to share his truth. Sometimes those things don't perfectly line up. But that's okay. That's what makes conversations real." Her poise impressed even those who had criticized her. She didn't take shots, didn't assign blame, she simply moved forward with grace. Behind the scenes, however, the production staff were still shaken. "That was the first time a guest actually walked out," one of the assistant producers whispered. "You could feel the tension through the monitors." Another added, "Kelly handled it like a pro, though. She didn't flinch." A few days later, reporters caught up with Jason outside his Nashville studio. Cameras swarmed as he adjusted his cap and gave a brief, tight-lipped smile. "Ain't much to say," he muttered. "Kelly's good people, but I'm not here to play media games. I'm a musician. That's it." Then, just like that, he was gone again, leaving the press with more questions than answers. Privately, those close to Jason said he felt ambushed. He thought it was going to be a chill interview about the new record, one member of his team shared anonymously. He didn't expect it to turn into a moral debate. Jason's not great at filtering himself on camera. He says what's on his mind, and that's what happened. But others saw the moment as a turning point. It reminded people why they love him, or why they don't, one music critic wrote. "Aldean has always represented raw, unapologetic country. That authenticity can be inspiring, but it can also make him volatile." Kelly, on the other hand, was flooded with praise from colleagues and fans for how she handled the moment. Fellow talk show hosts sent her messages of support. "That's live TV for you," Jimmy Fallon texted her jokingly. "At least nobody threw a chair." Kelly laughed when she read it, shaking her head. But deep down, she couldn't shake the image of Jason's face, frustrated, wounded, defensive. She hoped someday they'd talk again, off camera, just as two musicians who understood each other. In the weeks that followed, the controversy gradually faded. Jason's album continued to sell, bolstered by all the attention. Kelly's ratings even ticked upward after the viral clip, though she never exploited it for publicity. Both stars returned to their respective worlds, wiser in different ways. Months later, when asked in an interview if he regretted walking off, Jason paused before answering. "Regret? Nah," he said. "Could I have handled it better? Sure, but I'm human, and I'd rather be real and walk off than sit there pretending." When Kelly was asked the same question during a podcast appearance, she smiled. "I don't think there were any bad guys in that moment," she said softly. "We just saw two passionate people who care about their art. It got messy, but sometimes, real conversations do." And in that simple statement, she captured what the audience had sensed all along. The moment wasn't about anger or ego, it was about honesty colliding with pride, live and unfiltered. It was the kind of TV moment that couldn't be scripted, one that reminded everyone watching that fame doesn't shield anyone from raw emotion. In the end, both Jason Aldean and Kelly Clarkson walked away from the incident not as rivals, but as two artists who had simply crossed emotional wires in the heat of the moment. The cameras had stopped rolling, but the impact of that brief, explosive exchange would echo in entertainment circles for a long time to come.